Chrisley knows best. Julie Chrisley gets prison visitors on big day. This time last year, Todd and Julie Chrisley were a week away from starting their prison sentences. But this year, the Chrisley Knows Best alums will be behind bars as Julie celebrates her birthday. It's the first birthday that she spends behind bars, so she will get some visitors to cheer her up. Julie Chrisley hopes to get out of prison soon. Ever since Todd and his wife reported to prison, their daughter, Savannah, and their legal team fought to get them out again. Though she takes a lot of heat for that, there are still millions of fans of the family who hope for an early release. In that area, things are looking promising as both of the former reality TV stars got their sentences reduced. Julie Chrisley will now serve 5 years behind bars, but they stand a good chance of getting out even earlier once their appeal is heard in April this year. Oral argument hearings being approved are about as rare as hen's teeth, so their attorneys presented evidence that seemed reasonable. But for now, the mom of Grayson, Savannah, Chase, and Chloe celebrates her birthday behind bars. Chrisley Knows Best family visit their mom. Grayson Chrisley hates the idea of every weekend being spent at either the Federal Medical Center Lexington in Kentucky or at Pensacola FSCI. However, according to a report by People, he will visit his mom in Kentucky on Friday when she turns 51 years old. Alongside him will be his adopted sister Chloe and his big sister Savannah. The outlet cited Alex Little, the attorney for Julie Chrisley and her family, as saying, "Will the former Chrisley Knows Best star be free before this time next year?" Well, it seems that even if the oral arguments end up in their favor, it won't happen in 5 minutes. Little also used the word long to describe the procedure. Notably, the appeal won't be a chance for Todd and Julie Chrisley to get out of prison for a while. It's just judges who sit with lawyers and argue various points of law. What are your thoughts? Do you hope that this birthday will be the first and the last behind bars for Julie Chrisley? Plenty of people have slammed the entire family since Todd and his wife started their prison sentences. Meanwhile, others think they were wrongfully imprisoned and that their sentences were way too long. Julie Chrisley awoke to the sound of clanging metal gates and the echoing footsteps that rippled through the sterile hallways of Federal Correctional Institution in Lexington. It had been months since she traded designer suits and manicured gardens for drab uniforms and concrete courtyards, each day punctuated by moments that challenged her sense of resilience. Yet today, a spark of something unfamiliar coursed through her, a blend of anticipation and anxiety. The sun's first rays stretched over the pale walls of the visiting room, painting the scene with a deceptive warmth. Julie stood at the far end, a neat figure dwarfed by the starkness around her. She took a deep breath, adjusting the thin fabric of her uniform, which felt foreign even after all this time. Her heart thudded in sync with the metallic rattle of the main doors opening. One by one, visitors trickled in, faces that told stories of hope, sympathy, and unspoken words. But Julie's eyes were searching for just one set of familiar faces, the ones that tied her to a life now suspended, existing somewhere between reality and memory. Todd Chrisley, impeccably dressed even under the constraints of prison regulations, was the first to appear. His presence was like a bolt of electricity, charging the air between them. Despite the fatigue etched on his face, his eyes sparkled with the same defiant confidence that had both defined and complicated their journey. His smile, faint but unwavering, was their unspoken agreement, a promise of solidarity. Beside him were Savannah and Chase, who, despite their best efforts to project resilience, betrayed glimpses of worry. Savannah's long blonde hair was pulled into a tight ponytail, a visible effort to maintain her usual poise, while Chase wore a serious expression Julie hadn't seen since he was a child. Following close was Grayson, his youthful frame now bearing the maturity of someone who had been asked to grow up too fast. His hands were shoved into his pockets, a nervous habit that Julie recognized instantly. Julie's breath caught as the realization of their presence washed over her. She was momentarily transported back to the days of dinner-table laughter, extravagant holiday decorations, and the bright lights of reality TV, a world where their troubles were as neatly resolved as the end of each episode. Today was different. Today, reality bit with a sharp edge. "Mom," Savannah whispered, her voice trembling as she reached her. The embrace was warm, clinging, as if it could bind the fractures of time and distance. Julie closed her eyes, drinking in the familiar scent of her daughter's hair, the comforting weight of her children's love surrounding her. Each of them took their turn, holding her in a way that spoke of words too sacred to utter. "Y'all look good," Julie managed, her voice steadier than she felt. A brief chuckle passed through the group, breaking the tension like the first breath of spring. Todd moved closer, a protective hand resting on her shoulder. "We've missed you," he said, the strength in his voice attempting to mask the crack that threatened to break through. His eyes, usually sharp and commanding, softened as they locked onto hers. "I know," Julie said, squeezing his hand. They needed no further explanation. Their shared ordeal was a language only they could speak, a reminder that their love, though tested, was an unyielding force. The visit pressed on, punctuated by quiet conversations and stolen glances. Savannah recounted stories of home, how Chloe was adjusting to the change, how Nanny Faye was still as sassy as ever, and how life outside was moving at a pace that felt dissonant from the stillness inside these walls. "We're keeping things together, Mom," Savannah assured, her eyes wet but determined. "You taught us how to." Julie felt a swell of pride. They were her children, after all, raised in the crucible of public scrutiny and familial chaos, emerging not unscathed but unbroken. Chase leaned in, his grin a sliver of mischief peeking through the weight of the day. "You should see the latest mess Dad's gotten himself into," he joked, nudging Todd lightly. For a moment, the air lightened, laughter rippling among them like an old cherished song. Even Julie let out a soft laugh, the sound foreign yet beautiful. The guards, distant but vigilant, watched the scene with impassive expressions. It was a rare moment in this space, a room that had witnessed tears, arguments, and desperate reunions. But today, it held something rare, hope, stitched together from pieces of love and defiance. As time slipped through their grasp like sand, Julie's heart began to sink. The visit was drawing to an end, each tick of the clock a reminder of the inevitable goodbye. Yet, as the guards moved to signal the conclusion, Todd stepped forward one last time. He rested his forehead gently against hers, a gesture so tender that it silenced the room. "Remember, Julie," he whispered, his voice breaking in the places he usually kept guarded. "This isn't forever. We'll make it through." She nodded, fighting the tears that threatened to spill. "We always do." One by one, they filed out, Savannah's hand lingering in Julie's for as long as it could before it slipped away. Grayson, usually so stoic, turned back at the door, offering a small wave that spoke volumes. Julie watched them go, the room now quieter, emptier. The clanging of the metal doors resonated, sealing her back into the solitude she'd come to know so well. But today was different. Today, she carried with her the echo of their voices, the warmth of their touch, and the certainty that even behind the walls of her prison, she was loved beyond measure. As she returned to her cell, the reality of their visit began to settle. The day, once anticipated with both dread and longing, now glowed with the promise of a future not yet written. She closed her eyes, breathing in deeply. One day at a time, she thought. And today, she had been given just enough light to see her through the darkness.